The plane landed in the city, and Ava's assistant blocked my path, her face a blank mask. She repeated her boss's words, one by one. What? A year has passed and you still haven't managed to forget me and the boy. You walked away so damn coolly, and now you come crawling back like some stray dog wagging its tail. You want to set foot in the White family estate? Fine. Kneel outside for 24 hours first. As for whether or not you can earn Ethan's forgiveness, well, that's up to you. The assistant recited Ava's usually mocking tone in a flat, emotionless monotone. There was a bizarre kind of humor to it. I couldn't help but let out a dry laugh. My trench coat was big enough to hide the new wedding ring on my finger. This time I was back in the city, to marry someone else. The moment Ms. Lin finished speaking, camera flashes exploded around us. The light was so bright it was hard to keep my eyes open. Reporters shoved their microphones in my face. Mr. Vance, is it true that you attacked Ms. White and Mr. Cole with a knife all those years ago? How did you avoid prosecution? Are you back in the city to get back together with Ms. White? Mr. Vance, please answer. What were you doing on the mainland all this time? Why did you disappear? What are your thoughts on Ethan Cole now? Will you be seeing him? I turned my head slightly. The collar of my coat blocked some of the flashes. Beneath the fabric, the new ring pressed against my skin. A cool, grounding sensation. I will not be answering any questions, I said flatly. These old scores and baseless speculations were no longer worth my breath. While Ms. Lin was distracted dealing with the media, I ducked low, trying to slip past her. At the end of the terminal exit, a car I'd arranged was waiting for me. But Ms. Lin was faster. She blocked my path again perfectly. Mr. Vance, Ms. White has instructed me to make sure you get in the car. I glanced at the familiar black Maybach parked not far away, its windows tinted so dark you couldn't see inside. After a brief pause, I stopped resisting and walked straight toward it. Ms. Lin opened the door for me. The car smelled of Ava's signature fragrance, cold and oppressive. She wasn't inside. I let out a sigh of relief. I took out my phone and sent a text to the driver who was supposed to pick me up. Something came up. I have to stop by the White estate to pick up some old belongings. Please wait. The car climbed the familiar, winding road up the mountain, past the enormous golf course, and finally stopped in front of the mansion I knew so well. It was still as grand as ever, but it felt silent, subdued. Ms. Lin got out and opened my door. The scene I had braced myself for didn't happen. There were no crowds of bodyguards in black suits waiting to force me to my knees. After all, to appease Ethan's anger back then, Ava had her bodyguards hold me down and make me kneel in the courtyard. The entire estate was unervingly quiet. Even the servants, who used to be everywhere, were few and far between, giving the place a deserted, hollow feel. I pushed open the heavy living room doors. Ava was sitting on the central sofa, looking relaxed, as if she'd been waiting for a long time. She glanced at her watch, then her eyes landed on me. Counting from the second you walked through that door, you haven't knelt for even a minute. What, do you want a taste of being thrown out again? I met her gaze, my voice calm. I left on my own. I wasn't thrown out. Ha, she scoffed. You stubborn lunatic. I ignored her, turned, and walked straight up the stairs to the second floor room that used to be mine. I'd left the city in such a hurry, in such a state, that I couldn't take many important things with me. I pushed open the door and was hit by the choking smell of dust. I flipped on the light. A thick layer of dust coated the furniture, and fine particles floated in the air. I breathed a sigh of relief. It was likely no one had touched anything in here. I walked to the old wardrobe against the wall, opened the door, and dust rained down. I reached for the hidden compartment in the very back. It was empty. My heart sank. The box was gone. I have it. A little boy's voice came from behind me. I turned. It was Zach. Cradled in his arms was the very wooden box I'd been thinking about. I didn't crouch down to meet his eyes like I used to. Instead, I stood up straight. He had to crane his neck to see my face. His expression was almost indifferent. You want it? Will you give it to me? No, he answered quickly. This belongs to my dad, Ethan. I stated the facts calmly. Everyone knows this is mine. It was originally a gift from my grandpa to my dad, he countered with clear logic. But you're not my dad anymore. My new dad is Ethan, so this stuff is his now. Oh, I replied coolly, looking away from him. I didn't look at the box again. I just turned and walked out the door. Immediately, I heard his anxious voice behind me, tinged with the surprise of a child whose scheme hadn't worked. Hey, you're just leaving? You don't want it? This is the last thing you have from your father. I didn't stop. I didn't answer. That's right. I didn't want it anymore. I remembered when he was 6, and I tried to get that jade figurine back in the same way. I had knelt on the floor, looking up at him with begging eyes. Zach, can you please give this to Daddy? It was a gift from Grandpa. It's the only thing I have left to connect me to him. He asked, is it that important? My voice choked. It's very important. It's all I have. And then he just stared at me blankly. He raised his hand and smashed the jade figurine on the floor. The sharp, cracking sound still echoes in my dreams sometimes. Now, his threat came from behind me again. If you take one more step, I'll smash everything inside. But I didn't pause for a second. I knew that if my grandfather was watching from somewhere, he would never want to see me degrade myself again and again for these cold, lifeless objects. To lose all my dignity in front of his own great-grandson. If you can't have it, it's better to let it go. I walked down the stairs, step by step. In the living room, Ava was still sitting where I'd left her. I didn't look at her. I walked straight to the main entrance and reached for the heavy, carved wooden door. Where are you going so late? She asked, suddenly angry. I'm leaving, Zach. Her voice shot up, but she wasn't shouting at me. Give that lunatic his unlucky dead things. Before you piss him off and he goes crazy and starts slashing at us with a knife again. Before she even finished, a loud crash echoed from upstairs. It was the sound of the box being thrown violently to the ground. My chest tightened as if the sound had struck me, but my hand never faltered as I pushed the door. It swung open, and the cool night air rushed in. Leo Vance. Ava's furious voice chased after me. You think you can just come and go as you please? What do you think the White Estate is? A hotel? You come back once a year and you can't even stay for a minute before you're leaving again. Zach corrected her calmly. It's been 1 year, 8 months, and 21 days. He was a gifted kid. He got his sensitivity to numbers from me. Honestly, my only purpose in coming to the White Estate was to get my father's things. If there really had been bodyguards at the door forcing me to kneel, I would have turned and left without a second thought, without ever stepping foot inside this house. Now that I knew I couldn't get my things, I had no reason to stay another second. Suddenly, I heard the sound of hurried footsteps and a man's shouts, mixed with the panicked admonishments of servants. Mr. Cole, slow down. Watch your step. I turned around instinctively. Ethan Cole was running toward me from a side hallway of the mansion. He had changed a lot. The man I remembered, who was always clean-cut and gentle with a hint of melancholy, was gone. In his place was a man with a dark, brooding face. A faint scar ran from his eyebrow to his cheekbone. Though it wasn't deep, it ruined his once handsome features, making him look somewhat sinister. My fault. That year I had slashed Ava 7 times. When I was about to kill her, Ethan threw himself in front of her and only took 1 cut. But unfortunately, that slash went diagonally across his cheek. At the time, it had nearly torn half the skin off his face. The scene was horrific. Even with modern medicine, the repairs would likely leave a faint scar that could never be completely erased. That must be why he looked like this. His eyes were full of suspicion and scrutiny. Leo Vance, what are you doing back in the city? Are you still trying to bother Ava? Trying to get back together? Are you that pathetic? I was calm. I don't make a habit of getting in the middle of other people's relationships. The color drained from Ethan's face. The remark had clearly hit a nerve. I continued coolly. Don't worry. Ava is a very loyal person. She's only ever loved you. I can vouch for that. After all, no one knew better than me how much Ava loved Ethan. His expression softened slightly. He sounded a little smug. Of course, I'm her one true love after all. So what are you worried about? If you keep worrying, you'll be the pathetic one. With that, I turned and walked toward the car parked nearby. Don't you ever come back to the White estate, he shouted after me. Of course not, I replied without looking back. I reached the car and had just pulled the door open when a wrinkled, aged hand suddenly shot out and gripped the doorframe tightly. Sir, you're finally back, a tearful voice cried out. I turned. It was Mr. White, the old servant who used to take care of me at the estate. He looked much older, his hair white. He was gripping my wrist, tears streaming down his face. Sir, where have you been? Please, let me come with you. I'll do anything for you. Work like an ox to repay your kindness. If it weren't for that $2 million you gave me, my son would be dead. I tried to pull my hand back, softening my tone. Mr. White, I'm not the master of the White House anymore. He clung to the car door, refusing to let go. I serve you, sir, not the White family. Please, I'm begging you. Take me with you. I looked at his tears and hesitated for a moment. I'm leaving the city in a week. I'm going to the mainland and I'm never coming back. Are you sure you want to follow? Yes. Okay. Get your things ready. I'll come get you in a week. Sinking into the mattress, I was enveloped by a rare feeling of comfort. But my phone screen kept lighting up, one notification after another. It was the wedding planning team, sending over the final proposal, a dense collection of documents and pictures. I opened it and scrolled through carefully. Every last detail had been finalized according to my preferences. The plan was perfect. I couldn't find a single flaw. As I was reviewing the confirmation page for the floral arrangements, a text from an unknown number came in. No greeting, no small talk, just a PDF attachment. I hesitated for a moment, then tapped to download it. It was a draft of a prenuptial agreement. I skimmed it. The contents were surprising. The terms were extremely generous to the husband. It promised a huge amount of real estate and company stock, and even stipulated that in the event of a divorce, the husband would receive a large alimony payment and preferential custody of the child. But right now, all I felt was that it was abrupt and bizarre. Who sent this? The reply was almost instant. Are you pleased? In that moment, I knew it was Ava. I'd been scrolling on my phone before bed, and the city's top trending topics were all about my return. I've never paid much attention to the media, and I watched with a sort of detached curiosity. I wanted to see what new stories they could cook up this time. It was while scrolling through the news that I noticed something. Ethan and Ava still weren't married. When I left, their love had been a raging inferno. Everyone predicted they would get married the second I was gone. Now, almost 2 years later, the wedding still hadn't happened. It made sense, actually. Ava's parents would never allow a man from a common family to marry into their house. And Ava herself didn't have the guts to leave the security of the White family empire. So, what did she mean by sending me this agreement? Just like before, when she'd take a cake I'd painstakingly baked and present it to Ethan. Or when she took a company project I had built from the ground up and gave it to him as a birthday present. Was she now asking me to review the prenup she was preparing for Ethan? I blocked the number and deleted the conversation in one clean sweep. For the next 3 days, I was busy with final confirmations with the planning team and trying on my tailored suit. On the 4th day, another text came from a new number with a new contract attached. One look at the message style and I knew it was Ava again. She was persistent. This time, the name in the husband's signature line was mine. Leo Vance. The family won't accept Ethan. I can take you back. After all, you raised Zach and we need a complete family. But you can't hurt Ethan again. A wave of physical nausea rose in my throat. I typed back quickly. You're disgusting. She seemed to be provoked. Leo Vance, are you still playing hard to get? You came crawling back to me because you couldn't make it on the mainland. The whole world knows you're the psycho who attacked me with a knife. Who else would want you? What good is your handsome face? You've been alone all these years. Doesn't that prove my point? I laughed coldly. I threw the phone in the trash and swapped in a new one. Because of that, I never saw the slightly softer message she sent 2 days later from yet another new number. Vivian Lynn's wedding is next weekend. You're coming with me. I'll take you out, show you off, and they'll all know we're back together. After that, you can do whatever you want in this city." She also had no idea that at that wedding I was the groom. On the wedding day, the sun was bright. Dressed in my custom suit, I walked down the aisle on my mother's arm, step by step, toward the end of the red carpet. Vivian Lynn looked at me, her gaze calm and gentle. The hall was filled with guests. Suddenly, a cold voice, choked with rage, cut through the air. "Leo Vance, you dare marry her?" That familiar, jarring voice sliced through the wedding march, crashing into the reception hall. I looked toward the sound. Ava was standing behind the guest tables, her face an icy mask. The table in front of her was overturned, a mess of broken plates and glasses. A wave of hushed gasps went through the crowd. I had personally reviewed the guest list. She was definitely not on it. As I was wondering how, Vivian's hand rested gently on my arm, steadying me, pulling me a little closer to her. "Don't worry, I'll handle this." Then, she raised her hand and made a gesture. Bodyguards swiftly moved in and restrained Ava, who was trying to rush the stage. She struggled, shouting something, but her voice was quickly muffled. She was forcibly and quickly removed from the venue. The experienced MC immediately soothed the guests with a light-hearted tone. The music swelled again, elegant and stately. It was as if the commotion had been nothing more than a brief gust of wind, gone as quickly as it came. The unexpected interruption didn't stir much in me. I took a deep breath, tightened my arm around hers, and turned back to the officiant. The wedding proceeded smoothly, exchanging rings, saying our vows, the kiss. The wedding was perfect. The next day, we were at the city's international airport, our private jet ready to go. Truth be told, both my and Vivian's business empires were based on the mainland. Years ago, the Lin family had astutely followed the nation's call for development and shifted their industrial focus from the city to the mainland. But the Lin family had a tradition. Whenever children got married, they had to hold a ceremony back in the city. It was a way to honor the ancestors who had struggled and were buried here, to share the family's joy with them. After Vivian and I got married in Chicago last year, she kept talking about coming back to the city for a second ceremony. I had been busy stabilizing and expanding my business on the mainland and only recently found the time to come back with her and fulfill this wish. The plane landed at the Chicago airport. This time, there were no swarms of reporters at the exit, only the quiet car arranged by the Lin family. However, the online rumors never really died down. Someone started to meticulously comb through my ugly past with Ava. The headline was inflammatory, yet tinged with a certain melancholy for what was lost. It was called An Old New York Story. The truth is, my marriage to Ava was originally an alliance. Back then, the Vance and White families were the two titans of the city, equal in power. A union between us, being of similar age, seemed like the best choice for everyone. I didn't have high hopes for the marriage. Everyone in the city knew Ava White was a spoiled, wild heiress. But the prestige of the White family was too dazzling for me to refuse. Yet after marrying her, I discovered that Ava wasn't the unaccomplished fool of the rumors. On the contrary, she showed amazing talent and diligence in business, aggressively pushing forward. In our relationship, she was also surprisingly devoted at first. There was no one else in her life but me. From every angle, she was a nearly perfect partner for an arranged marriage, even bordering on traditional. In contrast, I was the one who seemed to neglect the family. I was a complete workaholic, pouring all my energy into the joint projects between the Vance and White corporations, often working late into the night. Many times, she would be the one waiting for me under a single lamp in the living room. We were married for years, and I was consumed by my career, giving very little to my family. Meanwhile, Ava was plagued by her inability to have children. It was at this time that her old flame, Ethan Cole, reappeared with his son, Zach, the child he'd had with an ex-girlfriend, Chloe. He used the boy to blackmail Ava, demanding status and money. To placate Ethan, and to satisfy her own desire for a child, Ava proposed that we bring Zach into our home and raise him as our own. I didn't know the whole story then, and I agreed out of guilt. The child's arrival changed me. I had to shift some of my focus from work to family. And it was during this time of growing intimacy that I fell deeper and deeper. I realized later that my initial obsession with work wasn't just about passion. It was probably a form of escape. Escaping the reality that I was gradually falling in love with my wife in name only. I was afraid of love. I thought love made people weak, made them lose themselves. Ava was too good to me. She would remember things I'd casually mentioned wanting to eat and have the kitchen make them in all sorts of ways. When I stayed up late reviewing documents, she would silently drape a blanket over me and bring me a glass of warm milk. When my stomach ulcers acted up, she would drop important meetings to stay home with me. After Zach came, she learned to change diapers and feed him. Her kindness was a slow, steady infiltration. It made even someone like me, who was so heavily guarded emotionally, gradually let down my defenses and fall deeper. I even started to naively believe that we were each other's one and only, that this marriage, born of mutual benefit, might actually blossom into love. Until Zach turned 5 and Ethan came back. All that was beautiful, like fragile glass, was instantly spiderwebbed with cracks. Ethan was initially just an insignificant employee in the White Group's headquarters. I don't know when the whispers about him and Ava started, but they began to circulate quietly within the company and then throughout the city's social circles. I didn't pay them much mind. In my mind at the time, Ava might have had her flaws, but the word betrayal had nothing to do with her. She had a kind of old-fashioned sense of duty in her bones. Once she committed to a relationship, she would see it through to the end. I even found the rumors ridiculous, just the usual salacious projections people had about the powerful head of the White family. Once, I accidentally saw a text from Ethan on Ava's spare phone, which she'd left at home. The words were full of a careful dependence and admiration. Not only was I not angry, I actually felt it was a bit pathetic. Young men always thinking they can climb the social ladder by latching onto a powerful woman. They don't realize that real power can only be earned by yourself. I didn't even bother to question Ava. I felt it was beneath my dignity. Until the day Ethan publicly cornered me at the company. With a posture of near total collapse, he tearfully recounted his history with Ava. In front of that whole crowd of people, I finally pieced together the full truth. He wasn't the one who came later. He was the one who was there first. He was Ava's first love, the man she had genuinely loved in her youth. Their story was a cliché. The rich girl falls for the poor but resilient boy. Their love was pure and passionate, but it ultimately couldn't withstand her family's intervention and the class divide. They were forced to break up. I remember I went crazy, rushing to the study to confront Ava. I asked her why she'd hidden it from me, why she'd let me live like a fool, immersed in a false happiness. Ava didn't try to defend herself. She just asked tiredly, "Does it matter? Leo, even if I had told you before we got married, would you have given up on this alliance that was so beneficial to both the Vance and White families?" Her question stunned me, like a bucket of ice water poured over my head. No, even if I had known she had someone else in her heart, given the circumstances back then, I probably still would have chosen to marry her. In business marriages, it was normal for spouses to have pasts. A dead-end old flame, in a loveless high society marriage, was practically harmless. In this whole affair, it seemed the only one at fault was me. I was the one who broke the rules of the alliance first. I was the one who, in our day-to-day life, pathetically gave her my heart. The deeper I fell, the more unhinged I became, the less I was myself. But I couldn't control it. Knowing the truth turned all those small, warm moments of the past into thorns. I became sensitive, suspicious, and jealous. Every time we argued, Ava would say helplessly, "Ethan is very emotionally unstable. If I completely push him away now, he really won't be able to go on. Leo, can't you try to understand?" Even Zach began to clearly favor Ethan. I was strict with him, hoping he would be disciplined and ambitious. Ethan, on the other hand, would secretly take him to skip class for junk food and let him play video games late into the night. In a child's simple eyes, the Uncle Ethan who played with him was obviously much more likable than the father who was always trying to control him. My wife, the child I raised, Their hearts seemed to belong to another man. That house was suffocating me. The final straw was my mother's sudden death. She died in a car accident. As she lay dying, she held my hand, her breath faint, and pleaded with me. Leo, let it go. If you're not happy, just leave. All your mother wants is for you to be happy. After handling my mother's funeral, I was physically and mentally exhausted. I proposed a divorce to Ava. I thought it would be a release for both of us. But she refused. She frowned, her tone laced with a hint of confusion. There's no need to go that far. Leo, just bear with it. It will pass. A divorce would be too damaging for both families and for Zach. The thing that finally made everything explode was when Zach, right in front of me, deliberately smashed the one jade figurine my mother had left me. He tilted his little face up, his eyes holding the same cold indifference as his mother. Ethan said, "This is a bad luck charm. We shouldn't keep it." In that moment, the string in my head that had been stretched taut for so long finally snapped. Ava, 7 slashes. Ethan, 1. Holding the bloody knife, I asked Ava, "Now, will you sign?" Her hand trembling, she signed. Afterward, the Vance family arranged for me to leave the city overnight, fleeing to the mainland, cutting off all public contact. From then on, Leo Vance, the city's elite, became a knife-wielding lunatic who had vanished without a trace. After leaving the city, I poured all my energy into my business on the mainland. Compared to the city's market of tens of millions, the consumer potential of over 1 billion people here was a world I had previously ignored. In recent years, more and more entrepreneurs from the city moved north to develop their businesses. Many would use their connections to find me, seeking advice or discussing collaborations. One day, my secretary informed me that a company from the city had scheduled a meeting. It wasn't large, but its financial records showed it was unusually well-funded. As usual, I walked into the conference room. I pushed open the door. A woman standing with her back to me, looking out the floor-to-ceiling window, turned at the sound. My steps faltered. It was Ava. Her brow was weary, but her gaze was as sharp as ever, staring straight at me. I quickly suppressed my initial shock. "Ms. White, my company does not conduct any business with the White family or its affiliates." Ava took 2 steps forward, her hands in the pockets of her suit skirt, her posture aggressive. "It seems you really haven't been reading the news from the city. I've cut ties with the White family. This company is mine personally. So, can we work together now?" She paused. "Such explosive news, and you really didn't hear a whisper of it?" "I saw it," I said calmly. "But my position hasn't changed. The list of people I refuse to work with includes everyone with the last name White, regardless of whether you still have the White family's backing." Ava smiled. "Leo Vance, your business is so big. Aren't you afraid of getting a bad reputation? Any partner from the city has to give the White family some face. You do this. Aren't you afraid of narrowing your own path?" I looked up, my voice still level. "I built this company to its current size precisely so I would have the right to say no to people I don't want to work with. Feels good. Ms. White, please leave." As I turned to go, a voice came from behind me. "Don't you want to know why I cut ties with my family?" I stopped and turned back, raising an eyebrow. "Of course I know. The city's media has been all over it, haven't they? The great White heiress, defying her family for love, willing to break away just to marry Mr. Cole." I gave a slight nod, feigning understanding. "Honestly, I admire your courage. Devotion is a virtue. I hope you can keep it up. After all, I enjoy seeing true love conquer all." Ava actually laughed. "Where did you hear that nonsense? For him? Leo Vance, use your brain. How could I possibly do it for him? I did it for you. From the day you came back to the city, I told my family everything. The old man refused to let me remarry you, so I just walked out. The news is only just now getting out because they couldn't suppress it anymore." I was stunned, this time truly surprised, but what followed was more confusion and absurdity. "For me?" I repeated. "What do you mean by that? I should be asking you what you mean." Ava's emotions were clearly spiraling, her voice thick with suppressed rage. "Why did you marry Vivian Lynn? No wonder my people couldn't find any decent information on you on the mainland. You had her big shot family protecting you. You had this planned all along, didn't you? You found your next wife, and that's why you left me." Her accusations were completely illogical. I cut her off, frowning. "Ava, my remarriage has nothing to do with you. We've been divorced for a long time. Even if it has nothing to do with me, what about Zach?" She was genuinely frantic now. "Can you be so heartless? Getting him a stepmother? Making him call another woman mom?" The air went still. I suddenly felt incredibly tired. She seemed to live forever in her own world, measuring everything by her own logic, including emotions, including responsibility. And I had long since decided I would never step back into that swamp. I almost laughed out of sheer frustration. That signed divorce agreement, I remembered the terms very clearly. "Ava, have you forgotten?" I stated the facts. On the divorce agreement, I gave up all assets. My only condition was that Zach and I would have nothing to do with each other from that day forward. I renounced my parental rights and was absolved of all child support obligations. It's there in black and white. You signed it. It wasn't that I never had feelings for Zach. He was the child I had raised. But a heart is made of flesh and blood. Can grow cold. Can hurt. Ava looked like she wanted to say more, her lips moving, but I didn't want to hear it. I turned and walked away. That evening, in the quiet, empty underground garage, the understated black Audi was already parked in its designated spot. I opened the door and got in. Vivian was looking down at her tablet, handling emails. Hearing me, she put the tablet down and reached over naturally. She gently took my fingers. Her fingertips were warm and dry. I heard Ava White found her way to the office today. Her tone was casual, as if she were talking about the weather. The city and Chicago are 1,000 miles apart. It's impressive, really. Her information is good, and her actions are even faster. I let out a small laugh and leaned back against the seat. Everyone at the company knows my history with the White family. Without an appointment and some internal approval, she couldn't have even gotten past the front door. Who do you think did her that favor? Vivian pretended to think, her fingertip tapping lightly on the back of my hand. You're right. Who could possibly have Magico to let her in? I turned, reached out my other hand, and gently patted her cheek, like I was teasing a lazy cat. It must have been the little kitten guarding the company door. She wasn't paying attention and accidentally let someone in. She let out a soft meow. Her eyes held a mix of frankness and cunning, like she'd been caught. I had already figured it out. Back at the wedding in the city, I had personally reviewed the guest list. There were no mistakes. The only person with the power to get Ava into that wedding at the last minute, at that precise moment, was Vivian. And similarly, the only person who could have let Ava into my office was her. She didn't do it out of malice. She was using her own method to make me see with my own eyes that the woman was still living in her own delusional world, that she hadn't changed at all. She wanted me to see, by stark contrast with the past, how clear and stable my life was now. She was using this slightly extreme method to help me and to help herself. To slam the door on the past and bolt it shut, for her own peace of mind. I saw the flicker of tension in her eyes, the silent plea for confirmation. My heart softened. I leaned over and hugged her, resting my chin on her shoulder. Vivian, my voice was quiet, but clear enough. You don't have to do these things. I have no lingering feelings for her. Not anymore. Now and in the future, right here. I gently tapped her chest, over her heart. There's only you. Her body tensed for a second. Then she hugged me back even tighter, her voice muffled in my neck. Really? I'm always so scared. After all, I was just one step too slow last time, and I missed you. I'm not going anywhere. I'll spend the rest of my life proving that to you. She was silent for a few seconds, then let out a muffled her arms tightening around me again. Let's go. Let's go home, she said. Rainey misses us. Thinking of my daughter's soft little face, a smile spread across my lips unconsciously. Okay, let's go home. As the car pulled into the driveway, Mr. White came out to greet us, his voice low. Rainey woke up once, had some milk, and she's sleeping again now. Under the soft glow of the nightlight, Rainey was lying in her cradle, sleeping soundly, her little face pink. Vivian stood beside her, smiling gently. In the middle of the night, I was jolted awake by Rainey's unusual crying. I touched her forehead. It was burning hot. The thermometer read 103.1. Our private family doctor happened to be on leave, and the new doctor wasn't due to start until tomorrow. We were off by just one night. Vivian and I immediately wrapped our daughter in a blanket and sped to the top private hospital in the city.
Tests, Medikation.
A whole night of frantic worry. As dawn broke, Rainey's fever finally went down. We carried our exhausted daughter out of the hospital room, ready to go home. The new doctor should be arriving soon. The hospital lobby was empty and quiet, the morning light streaming through the glass walls. Just then, a boy's weak, childlike voice floated clearly to my ears. "Mom, if I get sick and have a fever, will Dad definitely come to see me?" It was followed by a familiar voice. "Yes, your father almost died for you back then. He loves you more than anything. Even if he doesn't want me, he would never abandon you." I stopped in my tracks and looked up. In a waiting area not far away, Zach was looking up at Ava. His face was unnaturally flushed. He clearly had a fever too. He happened to turn his head and his eyes met mine. He froze, and the words slipped out instinctively. "Dad." Ava turned at the sound and saw me. And Rainey's fever had broken, and some of her energy had returned. She waved her little hands, chanting clearly, "Dada, Dada, Hoje." Ava and Zach's gazes froze on Rainey. Their faces showed identical expressions of shock and disbelief. Zach spoke first, his voice trembling. "Dad, who is she?" I corrected him. "Zach, I haven't been your dad for a long time. From now on, please don't disturb my life." Ava seemed to ignite at my words, exploding instantly. "Leo Vance, how can you talk to a child like that? And what's the deal with this baby?" Vivian stepped forward, positioning herself in front of me. "What's wrong? This is my and Leo's daughter. Is there a problem?" Zach's small body swayed. He fought back tears, his eyes red, and stared at me stubbornly. "Dad, you lied. You used to say you loved me the most. You said you would never have another child to steal your love away." I looked at Zach's red-rimmed eyes. The accusation and pain in them were so real, yet they no longer stirred anything in my heart. That was then. Now I don't love you anymore. I love my daughter, Rainey. Zach froze for a second, then let out a loud wail. The sound scared Rainey, and she started crying too. I quickly turned to leave. Behind me, I could hear Ava's furiously suppressed roars and Zach's increasingly shrill sobs. But I didn't stop for a second. I thought that miserable encounter would be the end of it. That Ava, with her pride, would finally let go after being so bluntly rejected and seeing that I had a new family. I underestimated her obsession. A few days later, on my usual route to the office, a black sedan suddenly accelerated and aggressively cut off my car. Ava got out, her expression frantic. "Zach's fever won't break. He has acute pneumonia. He's in the ICU right now." She spoke through my car window, her voice hoarse. "Leo Vance, he's the son you raised. Are you really not going to see him?" I rolled down the window, my tone flat. "Countless children get sick every day. Am I supposed to visit all of them?" She stared at me, as if trying to find even a flicker of hesitation on my face. But there was none. And then she knelt, straight down without any warning. Even I was shocked. "What do I have to do?" Her voice trembled. "For you to come back?" After a long pause, I heard my own voice. "You knew how this would end. Why do you insist on debasing yourself like this?" She snapped her head up, her eyes wild. She pointed at her own chest, her voice hoarse and crazed. "Leo Vance, you owe me a life. I almost died at your hands. You have to repay that debt, don't you?" I watched her quietly for a moment, then spoke. "Fine. Pick a time. Bring a knife. I'll let you cut me 7 times. I won't fight back. After that, all debts between us are settled." Ava froze, as if she didn't understand my words. Then her shoulders began to shake violently. Ha ha ha, Leo Vance, your heart is so cruel, I really am pathetic. Just then, another car screeched to a halt nearby. Ethan Cole scrambled out. Seeing Ava kneeling on the ground, he rushed over, his face contorted, and tried to pull her up. Ava, get up. Why are you kneeling for him? You don't owe him anything. Have some dignity. He couldn't move her. He whipped his head around to glare at me. Leo Vance, you bastard. You're already married and you're still leading her on. I hope you rot in hell. Mr. White, who had been following in my second car, now got out and rushed forward, pointing a finger at Ethan's nose. You have the nerve to curse at him? You shameless gigolo. The moment Sir left, Ms. White told you to get lost. You're the one who shamelessly knelt outside the White estate, refusing to leave, bribing the servants to call you Mr. Cole. I spit on you. Ms. White never even touched you. What kind of Mr. are you? You have no shame. The murmuring of the crowd grew louder. Someone took out their phone to film. I ignored the kneeling Ava, the crying and cursing Ethan, and the onlookers. I got back in my car and drove away. After that day, the gossip columns in the city and Chicago were, as expected, plastered with news about me, Ava, and Ethan. A few days later, word came that Ava had taken Zach and left Chicago, returning to the city. I finally breathed a sigh of relief, thinking life could get back to normal. However, just 2 weeks later, one afternoon, I was in the study with my business partner, Aaron, going over documents when Mr. White burst in, frantic. Sir, it's terrible. Miss Rainey is gone. The nanny, Fran, was knocked out in the back garden. And this was on the ground. He opened his palm. It was a small, cartoon Transformer-style pin, the kind a little boy would have. I recognized it. A long time ago, I had bought one just like it for Zach. Aaron and I shot to our feet. As we hurried outside, Mr. White breathlessly filled us in. The nanny had been with Rainey in the private garden behind the mansion that afternoon. Somehow, Zach had slipped past security and gotten in. Although the media had been covering my feud with Ava, they had never published a clear, front-facing photo of Zach. The new nanny didn't recognize him. He lied and said he was the son of a guest and was bored. When the nanny wasn't looking, he suddenly snatched the baby and held a box cutter to her delicate neck. When I reached the garden, the scene was under control, but the tension was thick. Zach was surrounded by several bodyguards, keeping their distance. He was holding Rainey tightly. The box cutter was pressed against her throat. When he saw me, tears instantly welled up in Zach's eyes, which were full of resentment and despair. Dad, he shrieked. Is this the only way to make you come see me? I forced myself to stay calm, keeping my voice as steady as possible. Zach, put your sister down first. We can talk about this slowly. I'll make time to spend with you later. You're lying. You always lie. He shook his head frantically, his arm tightening. Rainey whimpered in discomfort. It's because you have her. You don't want me anymore. If she's gone, I'll be your only child, and you'll come back. His wrist twitched, and the blade moved closer. My heart stopped. In that split second, Rainey, uncomfortable from being held so tight, suddenly turned her head and saw Zach's face, inches from hers. The 8-month-old had no concept of danger. She broke into a toothless grin, gurgling a few syllables. Bro. Zach froze, his hand, holding the blade high, suspended in mid-air. Seeing him ignore her, Rainey tried again, a little louder. Brother, play, clang. The box cutter fell to the grass. After a long moment, he started to cry. 2 streams of tears ran down his face. Sister, I'm your brother. I'm supposed to protect you. Aaron took the opportunity to step forward and carefully take Rainey from his arms. As he was being led away, Zach twisted his head and shouted at a bewildered Rainey. Sister, forget your brother. Don't remember me. As he passed me, he looked up, his face streaked with tears, and sobbed. Dad, I didn't mean to say those things to make you mad before. I just wanted you to see me. You were gone for so long, and you never once thought about me. I was angry. He pulled something from his pocket and held it out in his palm. It was the jade figurine he had smashed years ago, now carefully repaired with gold leaf, the cracks gleaming faintly. I kept it for you all this time. I'm sorry, I didn't take the figurine. I didn't even glance at it. My eyes were fixed on Rainey, who was being checked over by a nanny. I walked straight to my daughter. Behind me, he let out a more agonizing cry. Dad, you have to come see me. You have to. I never looked back. The subsequent investigation confirmed that Ava knew nothing about the incident. When she found out, she was horrified. The Lin family immediately upgraded our entire security system. For the next 2 years, Ava and Zach vanished, never appearing in my life again. Later, I heard that Vivian's business empire had expanded to the city. The White family's businesses faltered, one after another, and eventually collapsed. Ava took Zach and moved abroad. Ethan was paid off with a sum of money and also reportedly went overseas, never to be heard from again. The day she left, she posted a long essay on her social media. They said it recounted her past, expressing apology and regret. The writing was so sincere it supposedly drew sympathy and sighs from many. I swiped my finger across my phone screen, closing the notification without opening it. The evening sun poured through the floor-to-ceiling windows, filling the living room. Rainey, now just over 2, was toddling around in a cute little dress. She wobbled over to Vivian, who was reading documents on the sofa, and held up a picture book, chanting in her baby voice, "Mama, story." Vivian immediately put down her work, a gentle smile on her face. She lifted Rainey onto her lap, opened the book, and began to tell the story in a low, patient voice. I walked over. When Rainey saw me, she stretched out her arms and called sweetly, "Dada, hold." I leaned down and hugged them both, mother and daughter, together. Outside, the city lights were beginning to sparkle. Inside, it was peaceful and warm. The tempests of the past were over. In this moment, there was only happiness. Epilogue. The truth is, Vivian and I had met long ago, back in the city. It was the year before I married Ava. At a business forum at one of the city's top universities, she was one of the keynote speakers, invited as an outstanding young female entrepreneur from the mainland. We had a brief conversation during the networking session after the forum. My impression of her then was that she was composed and reserved, very different from the flashy, ostentatious airs common in the city. I remember the last thing she said to me, "Mr. Vance, your insights are exceptional. I hope we have the chance to talk again." I learned later that after the forum, she had expressed an interest in getting to know me, through a mutual acquaintance who spoke to my mother. But by then, the White family's marriage proposal was already on the table. It was more aggressive and it moved faster. The alliances and mergers between the city's great families were like the meshing of precision gears. Once they started turning, there was no room for the slightest hesitation of personal will. The vague interest coming from Vivian's side, my mother treated it as a trivial little interlude, quickly submerged by the massive wave of the White family alliance. I sometimes think that maybe it was just that, being one step too slow, she missed the optimal window to formally propose a relationship. Her base of operations was on the mainland. To court the eldest son of the Vance family in the city would have required more time for groundwork and planning. And the arranged marriages within the city's elite circles were all about efficiency and maximizing profit. They would never give an outsider the time to slowly cultivate a relationship. After I married Ava, I lost contact with Vivian. I would only occasionally see news of the Lin Group's steady growth on the mainland in financial reports, until I fled the city, covered in scars and branded a lunatic. When I was on the mainland, at my lowest point, almost ready to give up on myself completely, she found me through means I still don't know. Her help was measured and professional, preserving what was left of my shattered pride. In the long years of rebuilding that followed, she was always there, like a silent, reliable mountain. She never mentioned the opportunity we had missed all those years ago. She just offered a hand at the right time. She was the one who made me believe that, even after leaving that suffocating place, I could still survive on my own, and even thrive. Our feelings for each other grew quietly, day by day, as we fought side by side and she watched over me in silence. When she finally, after a project celebration dinner, asked me in her still restrained voice, "Leo, for the rest of our lives, do I have the right to walk this path with you?" There wasn't a shred of hesitation in my heart. It was a feeling of peace and certainty, of finally finding a home after enduring so much. Thankfully, this time I didn't make the wrong choice.